Zog Tehillah Gemara, 5 lines from the bottom of Daf Yud on the base. Tanya we learned. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, the Tishrei Nivra Ha'olam. The world was created in Tishrei. The Tishrei Noldu Avos. In Tishrei, the Avos were born. And the Tishru Mesu Avos. In Tishrei, our Avos died. Now, when we say the Avos, it only means Avraham and Yaakov. It doesn't mean Yitzchak. Because the Gemara says now, but Pesach Noilad Yitzchak. That's without a doubt, on Pesach, Yitzchak was born. And it's the Mefarshim say that Rosh Hashana is a time where we want chesed from the Rebbeinu Shalom. So it's appropriate to link Avraham Avinu, who is chesed, and Yaakov, who represents chesed. Yitzchak is Midas Agura. So Yitzchak, we keep away from Rosh Hashanah, we keep him by Pesach. Rosh Hashanah Nifkad Asar Rachel V'Chana. So once again, it's interesting because until now, we discussed B'Tishrei Nivra Olam and B'Tishrei Noldu Avos, but not necessarily on Rosh Hashanah. But Nifkad Asar Rachel V'Chana, that happened on Rosh Hashanah. Right. And before Rosh Hashanah, all the Rabbanim always say that your tefillas and the skaba, look, Sarah, Rachel, and Chana, daven for something that was so highly unlikely, year after year after year, and eventually, Rebbeinu Shem answered the tefillas. And there's actually a shaila in the Rishonim if they actually became pregnant on Rosh Hashanah, or if they just were the din was changed for them, and Hashem said they can have children, but not necessarily that they would conceive immediately. Rosh Hashanah, Yotza Yosef Beis Asur. Yosef got out of jail on Rosh Hashanah. Again, there's a lot of Torah on this. What's the significance of Rosh Hashanah for Yosef coming out of the jail? And they say that why did Yosef end up staying the extra years in jail? Because he told us Sahar Mashkim, Kim Zachaitani. He didn't rely completely on the Rebbeinu Shalom. Rosh Hashanah is a day where it's all about being mamlech, the Rebbeinu Shalom on top of us, over us, and therefore it was a good day for Yosef to come out of jail. The other shaila is, it's known that the Avos kept the Torah, and we know that the day Yosef came out of jail, is the Igalach, the Chalaf Shem Loisov. So how could he take a haircut on Rosh Hashanah? So there's Torah about it. One person says that I believe the Sasama speaks about it. And he says that first of all he didn't do it; they did it to him, right? They shaved him, they prepared him to go. He didn't do it himself. And the other part is even though they kept the Torah, it wasn't chiyuv. They kept the Torah, but here when he's standing in front of a melech, could be even though he kept the Torah, since it wasn't chiyuvis, he made a decision that this is appropriate for now.
I guess that's why they didn't have a farbrengen when he got out of jail. There wasn't a chiyuv.
I hear. Okay. Rosh Hashanah, Notla, Batla Avodah Me'aviseda B'Mitzrayim. Even though we were still Meshubah in Mitzrayim, we didn't have to work from Rosh Hashanah until Nisan, until we got out. For those 6 months, the Yidden were no longer doing slave labor. The Nisan Negalu, we got out of Mitzrayim in Nisan, but B'Tishrei Asidin Ligoyel, the Geula Asida is going to be in Tishrei. That is the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. So it's B'Tishrei Nivra Ha'olam. B'Shu Omer B'Nisan Nivra Ha'olam. The world was created in Nisan. B'Nisan Noldu Avos. In Nisan, the Avos were born. B'Nisan Mesu Avos. In Nisan, the Avos were Mitzvah. B'Pesach Noilad Yitzchak. Yitzchak was born on Pesach. Rosh Hashanah, Nifkid Asara Rachel V'Chana. So that's agreed upon by everybody. Rosh Hashanah Yotza Yosef Beis Asurim, agreed upon by everybody. Rosh Hashanah Batla Avodah Me'aviseda B'Mitzrayim, again agreed. The Nisan Negalu and the Nisan Asidin Legoyel, we're going to go out of Golus. So the first question is how could it be a machlokes when the world was created? The world could not have possibly been created in both days. So how do you have Elu ve'elu Divrei Elokim Chaim, which you have by a machlokes tonight? So the Tosfos, I believe, speaks about it, and Tosfos says, I think it's Tosfos further on in the Masechta, says that. Well, and again, we don't understand these things. That on Tishrei Kubi was also the machshava by the Rebbeinu Shalom, and then the actual creation was in Nisan. But do we know it also the machshava that the Rebbeinu Shalom thinks, has a consultation meeting, and then he builds. We don't even fathom how these things work, but there's different levels of creation. That's one thing that I heard. I heard another pshat that is be'etzem b'tishrei nivra olam. But what was the purpose of the Rebbeinu Shloim in building the world, so that the inhabitants of the world will recognize the Rebbeinu Shloim? In Nisan, when we were taken out of Mitzrayim, that's when Klal Yisrael realized that the Rebbeinu Shloim is the Rebbeinu Shloim. That's really the beginning of us becoming a nation of recognizing the Rebbeinu Shloim. So in Tishrei, physically the world might have been created, but the purpose of the world really only was completed in Nisan. So there's different Torah about how to understand the Nisan and the Tishrei as to when the world was created.
I don't think it has to. I don't think both of them have to be true. I don't think Elu Velu Divrei Elokim Chaim means that, you have a Metzias and therefore one of them can't be true. I think that means Divrei Elokim Chaim is the struggle for Pshat, is Torah.
But
Even
it's possible
that
the Tana is wrong. Most people say that when the Tana says something, it's true at some level. It's not pshat that his struggle was a Shem Shemaim, but he's actually right.
What said Elokim Chaim applies all the way up until the Rishon,
Including the Rishonim.
well, there's plenty of places where there's a machlokes metzias, and both of them aren't right. I mean, one of them is wrong, clearly. So
I guess we have to.
then we have to go find excuses why they're both right. You got to try to reconcile them. It's like Luftsachen.
But those Lufsachen might be the right shot, right? So that, but this is a whole big sugya.
Okay.
The other question that we have to talk about is, what does it mean in Tishrei there's going to be Gula, Nisan there's going to be Gula? Don't we say in Ani Mamin v'Afal Pi Shishmamein Kozach Hakalei B'Chol Yom Sheyavai? So what does this mean? So again, we know there's a concept of the Ita Achishana. There's the time that a Rebbeinu Shalom set up originally for the Gula, but there's this concept of Achishana that if we're royu earlier to have the Gula, it'll come earlier. So could be the real date is one of these two, either Nisan or Tishrei. That's the Be'ita. And the other Mandamar, Rabbi Shur Belazar, is telling us when the Achishana will be. Maybe we'll be Zoicha to have the Geula before the final Zaman. Okay, so let's see the Gemara weiter. Tanya, Rabbi Eliezer, Minayin Shebetishrei Nivrahai. How do I know that Hashem created the world in Tishrei? Shenemar, it says right in Bereshis, Vayomer Elokim Tatshe Haaretz Deshe. What does the word Tatshe Haaretz mean? Tiskasa v'sislabish v'deshoyim. I want the entire earth to be covered with a blanket, with a carpet of grasses. Esav Mazriya Zera, grass that will reproduce. Eitz Peri. What does Eitz Peri mean? Rashi Nigmar period, that it's completely fully grown. So in other words, Hashem said, I want everything to be fully grown. Ezeu Chodesh Sheha'aretz, which month of the calendar is the month Sheha'aretz Melei Desham, when already everything is fully grown on the ground. The Elon Mole pears, and all of the fruit trees are already fully loaded with pears. Havayim is Tishrei. I would say that's Tishrei. Sure, things grow throughout the summer, but in Tishrei, that's when the grass is lush, the fruit trees are full of fruit. Right? That's why we go apple picking on Sukkot time, because the fruits are all fully loaded come Tishrei. And the Yosy a perik, and to add to that period of time, Zman Reviyah. That's when it's supposed to rain. Right after Sukkot is when it starts to rain. Let's see Rashi. Yosy a perik Zman Reviyah hava. Claimer for Rayla Dover, another support to prove Shebetishrei Nivra Olam is Sharei Ligeshamim Hayutzrichim. The pasuk in Bereshit tells us that they had to daven for rain. We needed rain. Tishrei is Man Revihi, and the time for rain, in fact, is Tishrei. And then the Yardu Sham. Then it started to rain in Tishrei. V'tzimchu, and they continued to grow. Shenemer be'ed yalim na'aretz. A cloud came and it irrigated the land. That's Rabbi Eliezer's approach. Rabbi Yeshua has a different approach. Minayin shebenisan nivra ha'olam. How do I know that the world, in fact, was created in Nisan, not in Tishrei? Shenamar, it says in the pasuk, "V'toitzay haaretz desha, esev mazriya zera, the eitz oisapri." So he's quoting a different pasuk where it doesn't say eitz peri, it says eitz oisapri. Let's see what Rashi says. V'toitzay haaretz, v'loikse v'tachay haaretz. So first the pasuk says v'toitzay, not v'tachay. V'tachay means it's already lush and fully grown. V'toitzay means it's starting to produce. The Eitz Oisapri, unlike the pasuk before of Eitz Pri, Eitz Oisapri is below Eitz Pri Gomer. It's putting out plants that will eventually grow fruit, but it wasn't fully grown fruit. Ezu Chaydesh, which is the month? Sha'aretz Moitzia Deshoim, I'm sliding into the back. Which is the month where the land puts out the grass, things start to grow. The Ilan Moitzia appears, and trees start to produce fruit. What is the month where that occurs? That's Nisan, that's when things starts to grow. And it makes perfect sense to say that, because the Oisei HaPerek, Zman Behema V'chayi V'oif, Shemizdav Gen. That's also the time of the year called mating season. And Rashi says, Oisei HaPerek, Zman Behema V'chayi Lizak Gen. Well, L'kacha Yutzrichen, that they needed to reproduce. That's another proof that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world in Nisan, because right after Hashem created the world, he said, Puravu, now is the time. How do you know that mating season is also the time when things start to grow, like in Nisan? Like we learned a couple of days ago. It says in Pasuk, Tehillim, Lovshu Korim Hatzayin. It says Lovshu Korim Hatzayin, and it said that, Rashi says, Bizman, She Yisrei Au, She Balam Benisan. When things start to, when the wheat is fully grown and the wind blows through them and they make noise. Alma, you see from here that Nisan is man zivug bein. You see from this pasuk that mating season for animals is in Nisan. Ve'idich nami haksiv eitz oisapri. According to the first shita, according to Rabbi Eliezer, he dashes from eitz pri that's in Tishrei because everything's fully grown. But there's a pasuk that says eitz oisapri as well, which indicates that things aren't fully grown yet, meaning we're talking in Nisan, not in Tishrei. So, when it says Eitz Oisapri, it doesn't mean that the status right now at creation was that it needs to make pears. Avada, the status now is Vatache, everything is fully grown. But for future, it's going to be pears that could reproduce. Rashi's bracha l'doris, Oisapri l'doris. Umiu hashta Eitz Prihab. Right now, it's fully grown, the pears are there. Eitz Oisapri means in the future as well, they'll continue to reproduce. The Edech Nami, Eitz Pri. What about Rabbi Yeshua, who focuses on the Eitz Oisapri, that we're at the beginning of the season, things are starting to grow, we're in Nisan. It says Eitz Pri, which indicates things are fully grown, which would indicate that this was Tishrei. So tomorrow, who could you Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi? That Eitz Pri is there to teach us a lesson that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi teaches us. The Omer Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Kol Ma'aseh Bereishis L'Kaimasam Nivru. Everything that was made by Ma'aseh Bereishis, Rashi changes the years at the B'Kaimasam Nivru. The definition of B'Kaimasam Nivru is Vainu Eitz Pri Royu Hoya Litain Primiyad. Things were made fully built. Things were made fully built. Royu Hoya Litain Primiyad. They could have had pears immediately.
I thought H3 was meant that the tree itself was supposed to.
Well, that's how Rashi darshans that the tree, the Tam H, the Tam Imperial Shava. That's what you're referring to.
Right.
But the Gemara here is saying it also means that the tree was there already. It's not a stira. The tree was there already, and it also tasted the same. Right? I don't think it's a contradiction. So the first limud that Rabbi Shua ben Levi teaches us is it was b'kaimasam nivru. They were built fully complete. Like if I remember, Rabbi Victor says that there were fallen trees also created at the time of creation because the world was created alive. as if it was existing for many years before.
And even more so.
That's why he said you could carbon date things millions of years, because Hashem created it. He created it with a history. Is that what you were going to say?
No, I was gonna say, because there's stars in the firmament that are billions of light years away and billions of light years old, right? And then there are stars that are already blacked out.
Uh-huh.
So he created non-stars
Uh-huh.
for billions of years ago, meaning the star's not here and it hasn't been here for billions of years. So he created a star that's not here.
Because that also we didn't have. I hear. Okay.
There's also a Rashi that says Rebbeinu Shalom is not trying to fool us and trick us, and so that yeah,
It says the opposite of it. Nasa Adam b'Talmeinu, let the people make a mistake if they make a mistake.
yeah, I do. True. So that seems to contradict each other, these two ideas. All right.
Okay, you already have material for your next sefer.
Yeah.
Okay, Ladaitam Nivru. What is Ladaitam Nivru? This is very fascinating. Rashi says Ladaitam Shalom im chafetzim libaris v'amurhein. Everything that Hashem created, Hashem asked the tree, apple tree, do you want to be created? And they said yes. So everyone bought in. Now the question is, before Hashem created it, who did he ask? So these are things that we cannot understand. Okay, weiter. The next interesting point is litzivyoinon, and that's a little bit of a shayla what that means. So Rashi says litzivyoinon nivru bitam kol echad ve'echad ubitfus kol echad ve'echad, which seems to mean that not only did Hashem ask each nivra if they want to be created, but Hashem shared the design with them and says, "Is this how you want to be created?" And the tree can say, "Well, I don't know these types of branches. I don't have those types of branches." So Hashem, even like she did shop at home service, they were able to pick precisely how they wanted to be created. That's how Rashi looks. Tosfos learns a little bit differently. Tosfos says, "Lukumosan l'daitam l'tzivyonim." So it's the fourth line from the top. Tzivyonim loshen yofi means Hashem made them beautiful. Not that Hashem let them pick how they want to be created, but Hashem created everything with great beauty. Kamoy later sri v'derech behem achayev oiv kishegedelim. They grow beautifully. The koyach, the dash, the koima, the chosa, hoy b'maisa bereshis, the tchilas yitzirosam, v'chol nafku, v'dichsitzom. Hashem made the animals. The animals, a word that is used often to describe animals, is majestic. Beautiful horse, beautiful lion. So these are all parts of the Rebbeinu Shalom's kavana in making these nivraim beautiful. Okay, Shenamar it says. So that's what Rabbi Shua uses the word. That's what Rabbi Shua uses the word of Eitz Pri. Right? That's what he uses Eitz Pri to say that everything was built perfectly and beautiful. Rabbi Lazar says, "Minayin shebetishri nolda." So we just discussed how we know that the world was created either in Tishrei or Nisan. Now we're going to get into the next parts of their halachas. How do we know that in Tishrei it's no law? Shinamar, it says, this is a pasuk I believe from Malachim. Vayikalu el Melech Shloimei kol ish Yisrael. Klal Yisrael gathered around Melech Shloimei. Which month? V'yerachai Sonim, in the month of the Titans. B'chag, on Sukkot. So we learn from this pasuk that Yerach Shenol Dubai. This is the month where the Titans of the world were created. So we know it's Sukkot, we know it's Tishrei, and it's called Yerach HaYisanim, and we're trying to link the Avos to the Yisanim, to the Titans. How do you see that the Avos can be referred to as Titans? My mashma, the high Esan, Lishna, the Kifihu. How do we know that this Lashon of Esan is a Lashon of strength, referring to the strength of the Avos? It says in the pasuk, Esan Moishavecha. This is what Bilam said about Klal Yisrael, that we live in a very fortified area. And it says, Shimu Harim es Riv Hashem. Let the mountains hear Riv Hashem. Isonim and the Titans, Moiste Aretz, the foundations of the ground. And Rashi tells us from this pasuk that we're linking mountains to a sonim. Alma heim sonim heim harim. You see that the Titans are like mountains. The Ashkan the Nikru Avos Har. So now that we link the word a sonim to the word mountain, now we're going to find another pasuk that links the Avos to Harim. And that, by extension, we're going to be comparing the Avos to a son. That's how we make our link. That when it says a sonim, it's for Chodesh Eson, it's referring to the Avos. V'ashkan the Nikru Avos Harim shenemar medaleg ala Harim. The pasuk says medaleg ala Harim, which we're going to quote in a moment, and we learn dilik es haketz b'shvil Harim Hashem hasten the coming of Mashiach because of the Avos Hakdoshos. So let's see what Rashi said. What the Gemara says like there. V'aymer shimu Harim esriv Hashem v'ayson the moistarich. V'aymer says koyel daidi hine zeba. The voice of my friend is coming. Medaleg ala Harim, jumping over the mountains. Mekabetz ala gvoyos, skipping over the valleys. And we learn medaleg ala Harim. What does that mean? It means b'schus avos, because of the avos, because of the schus of our avos of Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov. Mekabetz ala gvoyos, b'schus imois. Hashem is jumping over the valleys in the schus of our mothers, and that brings the ula closer. So from here we know that that the avos were born in Tishrei, because in Malachim the Torah refers to Chodesh Tishrei as Yerach Sonim, and a Sonim is compared to the avos because a Sonim are compared to mountains, and mountains are compared to the avos. Rabbi Shua says, Minayin shebenissen noldu avos. How do we know that in Nisan the avos were noilad? Not in Tishrei like Rabbi Eliezer, but in Nisan like Rabbi Shua. Shenemar it says, "V'hi b'shmoinim shana, v'arba me'ei shana, v'tzeis b'nei Yisrael merit mitzrayim." This pasuk is talking about the date that the Beis Hamikdash was first established, the first Beis Hamikdash. So 480 years after Klal Yisrael left Mitzrayim, the Shana Haravias in the fourth year, reading the fourth year of Shloimeh's Malchus, the Chodesh Ziv in the month of Ziv. Rashi says Ziv is Iyarhu. The month of Ziv is called Iyar. So where does the word Ziv come from? So the Gemara is B'yerach Shenol Duboy Ziyusnei Olam. It's the month in which the Ziyusnei Olam were born. So we have a couple of problems here because we're trying to say that they were born in Nisan, not in Iyar. Ziv is Iyar. So that's problem number one. So let's look at Rashi. Ziyusnei Olam. Shenol Duboy Ziyusnei Olam. Kishen Ischadesh Iyar, when Iyar became, when the month of Iyar arrived, Noldu Kvar B'Nisan. The others had already been born in this. So B'yer Shenoldu Boys Yusnei Olam means it's the month where the others had already been born prior to this month. That's one shot. It's a little bit of a kvetch, right? But the next shot of Rashi is also interesting. Zimnin, sometimes the Tekufas Nisan, the equinox, Nimshach B'Soich Ir Shalavam. Sometimes the equinox, the solar equinox, will actually be in the month of Iyar. So when we're saying Nisan, we can extend Nisan into Iyar a little bit, and it's still considered Nisan because it's the season of the equinox. So it's not directly referring to the lunar month of Nisan, rather it's referring to the that period of time. So they're both a little bit shverlich, but that's why we use the word Ziv, which is Iyar. Let's see what Tosha says. Shenoldu Boz Yusnei Olam. The Afal Gav the Iyar Karei Ziv. Even though it's Iyar, it's not Nisan. Lekashamidi could appear Shpreish Pirkin, which is the same two Terutzim that Rashi says. Okay. So the Gemara Vayt. The Idich. What is Rabbi Eliezer going to do? Who holds that the Avos were not born in Nisan? The Idich Nami. I'm sorry. What is Rabbi Yeshua going to do? It says it does a Yerach Hayisanim b'chag, which would indicate that the Titans were born in Tishrei. So Gemara Hasam, the Yerach Hayisanim is not referring to the Avos being born there. It's the Takif for mitzvahs. It's a Yom Tov that's packed with mitzvahs. So to Rashi to talk about mitzvahs, there's Shofar, Rosh Hashana, there's the fasting of Yom Kippurim, there's the mitzvah of Sukkah, Lulav, Arava, V'Nisach Hamayim. So it's called Yerach Yisanim, not referring to the Avos, which are the Titans, rather referring to the strength of the mitzvahs that are relevant in the month of Tishrei. Rabbi Eliezer who holds that the Avos are born in Tishrei. It says Ziv as well, which would indicate Nisan. So to the Gemara, the Ziv is not referring to the Ziyusnei Olam, to the Avos, rather who the Isbe Ziva Liilane is a time where there's a special shine and beauty to the trees. If you go out during the days of Nisan, and you see trees that are growing with Paris, you make a bracha, Baruch Shalai Chisar Me'ilomai Klum, Uvara Boy, Brias Toivos, Vilanes Toivos, Lihisnois, Bahen B'nei Adam, Rashal Snois, Lahanois to the Lahana people. There's actually a Shaila Halacha if you're allowed to make this bracha on Orla, which you're not allowed to eat. But maybe the beauty of the tree, you can still make a bracha. This is actually a Shaila if you're allowed to make a bracha on Orla. And I think they make a difference between Eretz Yisrael and Chutz La'aretz.
Well, we make a bracha on trees without looking at them, without eating them, right, when they're in blossom.
Right, so that's so you can have a noah from them without eating. But the question is this noise man, does that mean eating as well? So that's, I guess that would be the shaila. Zogt. No, I think it's only when you see blossoms. I don't think so. I think it has to be. I think so.
Even trees that don't have any type of fruit have blossoms. Okay.
Because every
No, what I'm saying, there's like berry trees that you can't eat the berries. You make the bracha on that, so you can only make it from.
I think it's only for. I think so. I believe so. Yeah. Zogt more weiter. Man Amar b'Nisan Noldu. The man that will hold that they were born in Nisan will also hold that Nisan Nisan. Will also hold that the others died in Nisan. And man Amar b'Tishrei Noldu, and the man that will hold that they were born in Tishrei, b'Tishrei Mesu is going to hold that they died in Tishrei. Shenemar, how do you know this? Because it says Vayomer Aleim, Moshe Rabbeinu told Klal Yisrael, Ben Me'ah ve'Eshrim Shana Anochi Hayoim. Today is my birthday. I'm 120 years old. Shein Tamad Loimer Hayoim. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu have to tell them today was his birthday? Was he fishing for a present or something? Was he fishing to get a free Slurpee in 7-Eleven? I think they give you on your birthday. No, but he could have said I'm 120 without saying today is my birthday. Why do you have to speak that out? To tell you that today is my birthday. To teach us that Kadosh Baruch Hu takes special pride in letting tzaddikim live full years. I will fill the days of your life, meaning they'll live complete years. So, but a big tzaddikim, they die on their birthday.
Interesting that he even knew this.
Moshe Rabbeinu?
It was a long time ago. It was 120
Yeah, but he
years
traveled a lot. He must have had a passport. He traveled a lot. He must have had a passport.
Yeah, but there were so many different kings.
I hear.
I
hear. Zaktamar, but Pesach, Noilad Yitzchak. On Pesach, Yitzchak was born. Minol, how do we know? The Chsiv, it says the Malachim told. I'm sorry, I don't know if this is the Malachim. This might Kadosh Baruch Hu might have said this. Let's look at the pasuk. This is the handing of parashas. It says, "Hayipole me Hashem davar." This is Hashem talking. Ma'moid oshav elecha keis chaya ulasaravein. This is our parashas. So let's see what it says over here. It says, "Lamoid oshav elecha eimas koi." Where were they standing? Where at what point was this said? Ilema bePesach. If you're going to say that it was Pesach, so right off the bat, we assume that L'moyed Ashvei means this time next year. That's how Rashi teaches it. They made a line in the wall. But if we look at Rashi here we're learning it different. So let's look at Rashi. L'moyed Ashvei L'yom Tov haba rishon. What here we're learning pshat. What it means is the very next Yom Tov, L'moyed Ashvei I'm going to come back for the next Yom Tov. And Sarah is going to have a child. We have to find some way to separate the Yom HaBesura from the Yom HaLeida because it takes 9 months normally for a child to be born. Now we're going to struggle to find out which two Yom Tovim we're referring to that would allow a pregnancy. The maximum that you could spread out these dates is from Yom Tov to Yom Tov, because that's what he said. You're gonna have to find two Yom Tovim that are pretty far apart. So what does the Gemara say? If this occurred on Pesach, and he was saying the Kam Shavuos, you're gonna have a child. Can anybody give birth in a mere 50 days? Ella, you have to say the Koi Batzeres. This Yom Tov where this bracha came was a Shavuos. The Kamar B'Tishrei. In fact, Gemara Akate B'Chamisha Yarchi Micha Yolda. It's still only 5 months. Ella must be that this memory was said B'Chad, the Koi B'Chad. This happened on Sukkot. The Kamar Law B'Nisan, and he said from Sukkot till Pesach, that's what the pregnancy will be. In fact, Gemara, you still have a problem. Akati B'Shita Yarchi Micha Yolda. Could someone give birth with a pregnancy of 6 months? That's also impossible. So tomorrow, Tana, we learned it was an Ibiyar. So you actually have 7 months from Sukkot to Pesach. In fact, Gemara, you still don't have a full 7 months because we know that she was Pirsanida when Hashem told her. So if you take away the days, the 7 days of Tumas Nida, you don't have a full 7 months. Yeah. No, she was Pirsanida.
It was a whole year before that she
She got
was.
young again. Yeah.
That was a full year before. The Malachim came on Pesach, didn't they? 1 minute, did I miss something here?
So it's a little bit confusing because now the Gemara's narrative is this is on Sukkot. So it's a little bit confusing as to what's going on, and we're going to get clarity at the end. So let's just follow through. Kimad lemar, you made tumas nida, so you lost now the 7 days of Sukkot. The kaimal on sorry menu oisa yoim personida. We knew that the day Hashem told her that she could have a baby, she became youthful that day. That's why that's all they were able to serve the malachim. Avaloya ugos, they couldn't serve the bread that sorry menu made because they were tummy. So at this point, we're saying that the malachim, all this happened on Sukkot, not on Pesach, and just under 7 months later, the baby was born. So Amar Mar Zutra said, "Afilu l'mandamar, you led this Letitia, even if you hold that you get a woman who has a full term pregnancy, any letters to Mikutoyin, it's a full 9 months. It won't be a partial 9 months, but the letters to Shiva, a woman who gives birth after 7 months, sometimes it's not even the full 7 months. So it's missing a week. In the 7th month, it's possible that will happen. So you let us to Shiva, you let us to Mukatoyin. So it's logical to say that she became pregnant on Sukkot and she gave birth on Pesach. Shenemar Vayil.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The not eating, not touching bread when you're nida is a big chumrah. But serving basar v'challah on the same table is
that's a bit of a bigger problem. I hear.
Yeah.
You're not on eating the kedusha, but you're going to eat basar v'challah.
Right.
I hear. Vayil kufas hayamin. Miyat kufash. So this kufas hayamin is talking about a different case. I believe this is speaking about. Let's see. Gimel. It says no. Sorry. Where is it? V'hilas kufas hayamim. Where is this pasuk? It's nun. Okay. So nun. It says over here. V'hilas kufas hayamim. Vatar chana. V'teilat ben. V'tikra shmoy shmuel. Give Hashem shelter. So this is referring to when Chana had her baby. It says v'hilas kufas hayamim, and we don't meet kufas shtayim. So it would be two. It would be 2 kufais, which would be 6 months. Umid yom mishnayim. So you see, she gave birth in 6 months and a couple of days, which means early in her 7th month. So you see that a baby that's born in the 7th month, it might not be a complete 7 months; it could be partial 7 months. Okay, Rosh Hashana. Yeah, let's just see what time it is. We have a little bit of time. So I just want to learn the Haggah and Tosfos, which sort of wraps things up and tells us what happened when. Because we have a confusion. Is this happening on Pesach? Is it happening on Sukkot? So the Haggah will tell us that there's two things that happened. The Malachim came and Hashem came. So let's see what it says over here. Haggah. I'm at the bottom line of Tosfos and Yud Aleph Amud Aleph. Haggah. Shemati, I heard. The Vadei HaMalachim Bo B'Pei. The Malachim came on Pesach. They did not come on Sukkot, like our Gemara seems to indicate. Kedapirish Rashi B'Chumash. The bottom of the line in Tosfos on Yud Aleph Amud Aleph. Haggah. The last line.
You don't have such a lot.
Oh, you don't have that? Okay, so then I'll read it. I'll read it to you. So Tosfos has a whole shtickle to explain what's going on there with the Nisan and the Tishrei. So I'll read it.
If ours starts on
Shoshana Acheres. And
top.
after Shoshana Acheres, I have an extra Haggah.
No, it starts on the top of your album.
It's an addition to Tosfos. Oh, so it goes on top and base on top. Okay, so mine starts here. Shamati, Devadei HaMalachim Bo B'Pesach. The Malachim did come on Pesach. Kedapirish Rashi B'Chumash, like Rashi Chumash says that it was Pesach when they come. Aval Oisei L'Moed Asher V'Lecha Shomalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but the L'Moed Asher Hashem told them Hoye B'Tishrei. That was the following Tishrei. So the Malach came to Nisan before Tishrei. Hashem had this conversation with Avraham Avinu, and then the following Nisan is when the baby was born and Yitzchak was born.
Hashem told him like, oh,
Let's see what happens. Darish Hacha, that's what our Gemara is talking about. So the Sukkot Havakoi was on Sukkot. The next Yom Tov, meaning Pesach, Asher, behind the Pesach. Aval HaMalachim, the story that Rashi describes with the Malachim, who scratched a line in the wall to show when the baby is going to be born. Haim Sartu Shrita Bekoisel BePesach. They had already made this promise Pesach time. Im Tomer, Im Kain, my Parachacha. So then Ibazoi, what's the whole problem over here? Im Kain ki madlish tuma batri lahu. V'aloi ashkachan shepir sanida v'sukkos el b'pesach she'obar. She was already a nida 6 months earlier. Kishabo hamalachim, when the malachim came. She only brought basar b'chalav, not the ugos. Yeshloimar einachanami. You'll say einachanami. The la'achakach b'sukkos, afterwards on sukkos, kisha amalai kadosh baruch hu lamoyed ashiv hashanida. Then she was a nida. Midichsev atitzchak shar b'kirba. Pirish efshir achar shezakanti yachser li eden best ladam nidois. Could you? So she couldn't believe sukkos time that she would become a nida. Mechalal sheina isha yachayla lisaber elpin yachser la eden best. Must be that a woman cannot become pregnant unless she gets her nida back. At that time, when Hashem was upset with her, that she laughed and she said this can't happen, she didn't have a nida yet. Sukkot time, like our Gemara says, that's when her wrinkles went away, and her skin became soft, and she gave a nida. Don't we know that there was a tumor already 6 months earlier by Pesach, and that's why she couldn't serve the ugos? She must have had needed then too. For Rayim and the ugos could appear as Rashi, and Rashi told us she couldn't serve the ugos. That was back by Pesach. Lesser, that's not a kasha. The vadi masha person nida oz loy hay ala krayvom. There she didn't get a youth back. She happened to have a one-off. She happened to have a one-off riyah. But she didn't really become youthful to get her vest back until Hashem told her on Sukkot that come next Yom Tov you're going to have a child. How can I prove to you that it was a one-off, that she had needed that Nisan, that Pesach when the Malachim came? So after the Malachim ate, the pasuk says, so you see, because after that story, it says, so you see clearly that it was a one-off, and even after that story, in fact, she didn't have neither yet.
The Aruch HaNoshim was the other way. I thought the Aruch HaNoshim was that she would be, that she started to have a nida.
But it says chodal liyas l'sar. It doesn't say she had. It just says chodal.
Chodal means she started.
The chodal means it stopped.
Oh, so this was, oh, right.
I think there's a problem with this. So right after this event, we have Stoiman Amira, Mamish right afterwards. And right after Stoiman Amira, right after the Hafech of Stoiman Amira, Avram Avinu left to go to Plishtim, where they found Sarah very beautiful, and they took her, and she wasn't pregnant yet then. Okay, so if that means her youth was rejuvenated before the 6th month.
Also took her when she was 70, when she was over 75 years old.
What?
Hara took her as well when she was an old
75. She was older. She was almost 90. She was 90 years, 89.
I guess she was beautiful even in menopause.
But it wasn't meant. Okay, but I think you have to argue that she became very beautiful then, because soon afterwards she went to Plishtim and they found her very beautiful. She was taken to Abimelech's house. So you're saying that and she wasn't pregnant at that time.
Another problem that Tosfos raises is that when the Malachim came to visit Abraham and Nisan, they were visiting him post bris. But the tzivui to bring the tzivui for the bris was Tishrei, and there are those who learned that Abraham had his bris on Tishrei, and it's very difficult to say that he got the tzivui to do his bris in Tishrei and he waited until Nisan to do it. Yeah, so there's a lot of Tosfos talks a lot about how that corresponds with when Abraham even had his bris. So I mean, it's complicated sugya, but I just wanted to highlight some of the interesting parts of it. Okay, so let's see the Gemara weiter. How do you know that they got answered their tefillas that they'll have children on Rosh Hashana? Amar Belazar, ask pkida asus schira. We're going to compare the different people to each other using Gzei Shava pkida and using Gzei Shava schira. By Rachel it says Vayiskar Lakimis Rachel, but it doesn't say when that was. It says Bechana Vayiskar Hashem. So right away we're going to be comparing Rachel to Chana, but we still don't know the time. Yosy schira Rosh Hashana, but you use the word schira from Rosh Hashana to tell you that when it says schira by Rachel and by Chana, it must have been Rosh Hashana. So that's how we know Rachel. That's how we know Chana were nifkad with the words of Karen. They were nifkad of Rosh Hashana. What about Sarah? So for Sarah it says Pekida ksiv bechana ki pakad Hashem es Chana ksiv b'Sarah b'Hashem pakad Sarah. So that's how we know that Sarah also had her tefillas answered on Rosh Hashana. Zok to Gemara back. Rosh Hashana Yata Yosef and Beis Asurim in Nalan. Tiku b'Chodesh Shofar by Kasali and Pagenu, which is referring to Rosh Chodesh Tishrei. Yichaykel Yisraelu. So that we know is referring to Rosh Hashana. And then the next pasuk in Tehillim is Eidos b'Yosef Samai b'Tzeisa. So this pasuk, if we look at the pasuk inside, it says it's right in the next pasuk of the Tehillim, which tells us that that Yosef went out right around that time. Okay, developing. Next, Rosh Hashanah, Botla Avodim Avisid B'Mitzrayim, Ksivacha by Tzesi Eschem Mitachas Sivlos Mitzrayim, Ksivasam Hasiroisi Misevel Shechma. That same pasuk that talks about Yosef, it says there Hasiroisi Misevel Shechma, telling us as well that there was no work anymore. The Nisan Nigalu Kedisa, we know that Klal Yisrael went out of Mitzrayim and Nisan. That's very proliferated. That's clear. We don't need to bring rise to that. The Tishrei Sidin Legoil. As Shofar. We learn the word Shofar from the word Shofar. Ksivhacha Tiku B'Chodesh Shofar, referring to Rosh Hashanah. Ksivasa Bayemahu Yitaka B'Shofar Gadol, referring to the Gula Asida, happens in Tishrei. We sure remember Nisan Nigalu, the Nisan Sidin Legoil. We know how do we know? Amar Kal Leil Shimurim. We learned that the Seder night is considered the Leil Shimurim. What does the word Shimurim mean? It's watched for what? So he learns it means Leil HaMeshomer Uba Mishesh Shemei Bereshis. It's the night that HaKadosh Baruch Hu set aside from Mishesh Shemei Bereshis to redeem us from our goals. If you learn that that's not the day of the Geula, it's in Tishrei, how are you going to sound this pasuk? You could learn that Laila Hamishumar Uba Min Hamazikin. It just protects us from Mazikin. That's why there are people who don't say Krishma. We need the door open. By Shemach Hamaschu, we open the door. It's a Leil Hamishumar, not necessarily set aside to protect us, to set aside for the Gula. This machlokes as to whether or not the world was created in this, or the world was created in Tishrei, has a big impact in how they understand the psukim relating the story of the Mabul. Now, there's a lot of milestones and dates involved in the Mabul. So I want to go to the psukim that discuss the Mabul. So I'm here in the enhanced Torah. So the first thing it says is the first date we have is when Noach was 600 years old. So that will either be the second month is either Yud Zayin Iyar or it's Yud Zayin Cheshvan, depending on if you're counting on Tishrei or for Nisan. But Yom is a Nivku Kol Mayanis Tahim Rabba Baruba Hashemayim. So the first milestone is the day it started to rain. And then the next milestone we're going to have is 40 days later, the rain stopped. Then we have 150 days where even though the rain stopped, the Mayanis were still being nisgaber. So I'm not sure exactly what that means, but the water was still getting stronger, I guess, maybe coming from the Tahaimais. So now we're already at 190 days past the beginning of the rain. Then we have 7 months. Then we have 7 months after the rain stopped. We have the water stopped, started to go down, and that's the pasuk of Vishuva Amayim al Arz Halach V'Shoiv Vayachzor Amayim Miktzei Chamishim U'Masyoim. So after the 150 days, the water started to recede, and then it says Vatanach Hateva B'Chodesh Hashvi, the 7th month, counting from the end of the rain. So 7 months after the rain stopped is when the Teva finally rested on Hari Ararat, but there was still water very high. It's just that it was low enough that the Teva was able to engage at the top of the mountain. Near Rosh Hashanah. Then eventually the tops of the mountains were seen. Then it was B'Yom HaSheni B'Shiva B'Esim Yom LaChodesh Yabsha Aretz. And then finally, even though it was dry, you still couldn't go out yet. But then there was Chorban Mayim al Aretz, and that's when Noach took off the Michzah Teva. So there's a whole bunch of dates that are relevant to the Mabul. It's already 10 to 7. This gets into a new sugya, so let's leave this for tomorrow. Get into Mazolis and stuff.